There's nothing quite like doubling down in sports. We've, seen it in some regards with Matt Eberflus this past week, and just kind of disregarding the importance of that second to last play on the Hail Mary. I'm very curious to get your thoughts on that. But also, we've got a doubling down from the sculptors of Dwayne Wade's statue. My goodness. Okay, all right. First off, the statue. If you haven't seen it already, you probably don't use social media.
You haven't been online.
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's awful. It's really bad. It's probably one of the worst I've seen. I definitely haven't seen them all, and I'm sure there are some bad ones. And it's a very hard job. Hey, kudos to all the sculptors out there. That seems like a super tough job. But the sculptors, after all of the backlash, because it really does, some people said look like Morpheus when he's at the end of the movie, when he's all chained up. And it is what it looks like. He looks like he's 75 years old. The sculptors basically said that he has no regrets, and that he's like, we did the absolute best job we could have done, and we did actually the best job that anybody could have done on that one. I was like, really? Is that really the take you have right here? Hey, sometimes, man, it's good to just take your lumps. I've seen some people in the past have fun with it. Like, okay, yeah, we kind of screwed up. No, they're going the different direction on this one.
The Cristiano Ronaldo one is the one that immediately comes to mind as the worst one.
Andy Murray.
This is an extremely close second. And what's so crazy about it is I forgot that Dwayne Wade was getting a statue. He obviously deserves a statue in Miami.
Yeah.
But what's so wild is it's like Dwayne Wade is one of the most classically handsome athletes of the last 40 years. He is a good looking human being. There's so many things they could have done, but it's almost like they did AI generic yell, scream. Why his beard is so big in it? It's like Dwayne Wade had a beard, but it was always usually a very trimmed, fade beard. And
when it's just weird in it too, because
and he's like,
it is big, but it's almost blended in with everything that it is bizarre. And so they put so many wrinkles on the face. It's just so much.
The memes are great. The memes are amazing. The throw in the towel, the throw in the damn towel Rocky meme. He looks like that guy.
Oh, that's good. Great. Yeah, his son was even giving him
him and Zaire were
the stare down. Is this real? Is this legit? Oh man, that's so funny. But hey, I mean, he got a statue, so there is that, and that's pretty cool nonetheless. True. But yeah, hopefully better statues are on the horizon.
I'm not pro tearing statues down.
But
if someone tore it down, I think that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Definitely not. All right, well, we have a lot to get to here in week 8, so we're just gonna dive right into this thing. The Hail Mary that was the game decider. We've got Jameis Winston, potentially a new era here in Cleveland, at least for the time being. A lot to get to. Let's dive in. Week 8 recap. Here we go. All right, we've had trades, we've had injuries,
benchings,
crazy happenstances outside of the field, lots to get to. We'll kind of touch on those as we go through a lot of these games individually, and we'll start with this one, as we always do this season, with our best win and worst loss of the week. Mark, if you don't mind, I think I'll kick us off here with the best win.
Go for it.
My best win for this week, as always, plenty of candidates. I'm going to go with the divisional matchup here that I thought was really pivotal to the standings, and that would be the Atlanta Falcons taking sole possession of first place in the NFC South with their win over the Buccaneers. I can understand, honestly, if the Buccaneers had their wealth of weapons at their disposal for this game, I almost feel like that couldn't be, debated for this week, but I can understand, given that the Bucs were, kind of down and out at this point, that there's discussion. But nonetheless, you got to give credit to the Falcons for winning a division battle like this, a battle where they're both jockeying for position early in the season. It seems like the Saints are already, down and out for that. The Panthers have been the entirety of the season. So it's really going to be a dogfight between these two teams. For the Falcons to get the sweep over the Bucs here in this one, I think is super important. It's not often that you can sweep your divisional opponent, and have it come down to several other games within the conference. Usually, if it's between two teams in the division, it can come down to those two matchups. And so, for them to get that taken care of early in the season, I think bodes well for the Falcons' chances here in this division, already get a leg up, and to do so with already knowing that the Bucs are going to be without Chris Godwin, probably going to be without Mike Evans for at least another few weeks. This is a really good time and good position for Atlanta to start to separate themselves. 31-26, it was close, but Kirk Cousins looked really good in this game, and I think we've seen kind of a steady progression here with the Falcons. And so I think if you're a Falcons fan, you got to be pretty pleased with what you've seen so far.
8 of Kirk Cousins' 14 touchdown passes on the year have came against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2 games. So he's lighting them up. That says a lot about Todd Bowles. If I was a Bucs fan this morning, I'd be pretty pissed. You're at home. You give up that many points to a division rival when you have a defensive head coach and your defense is going to have to play better and step up because you're missing your 2 best offensive weapons. The defense failed the Bucs. I mean, it's just a fact. And Todd Bowles has to wear that. And it's one of those, when you're building your case against keeping your coach or firing your coach, this is a huge check mark in the fire the coach. Swept by your division rival. Both games, your defense looked inept and gave up 8 touchdown passes to Kirk Cousins. That's not good. That's not good enough. Baker battled. I give Baker a ton of credit. I don't think there's anything wrong with Baker. You can look at a lot. To me, you have to compare Baker to like Sam Darnold, and you have to compare him to like Geno Smith, guys in that category, right? The guys we talked about. If you look at Baker, to me, he's playing the best football you could possibly ask him to be playing. It's not a Baker issue. He battled. He kept the team alive in the game. Your defense gives up 31 points at home. When you don't have your first ballot Hall of Famer, you're not going to win that game. Tough loss for the Bucs. To me, it was in the category for loss of the week. I agree with you. The sweep of the Bucs is why it definitely is a nod to the Falcons. I think a very good choice for a win of the week.
Fantastic. All right. How about you? What you got for best win here?
Eagles, Eagles 37-17 over Cincy in Cincy. That's what made this game really impressive. Obviously Sirianni's hot seat. What I love so much about this game is it was the perfect Jalen Hurts game. It feels like Jalen Hurts, we hadn't seen a game like this from him in a year and a half since Shane Steichen was still his offensive coordinator, where it's like, dude, you're just absolutely one of the elite athletes at this position. 16 of 20, 256 yards, had the deep ball going to Devontae Smith on that great touchdown pass, plus the 3 rushing touchdowns. Listen, this game was tied like at half, and early in the third quarter, it was kind of like, this is a classic and anyone's game. And then Philly just took over. And what was so impressive about Philly's takeover was it's not necessarily scheme. I wasn't like impressed by the coaching, but I was impressed by like Philly. It's like they looked in the mirror and was like, why are we fucking around? Like, we have more dudes than they do. We got more guys. And credit to Jalen Hurts for just leading that charge in that barrage. 4 total touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. What an incredible day. And what was, I think, also impressive about this is now is an Eagles team that is trying to keep pace with the Commanders in the NFC East. It's an important win, even though it's a non-conference win. I think mainly because it's just a mojo win. You're 3 games in a row now, but you had beaten the Browns and the Giants. And so it's like, are we good? Are we not good? And then you go and you put a beat down like that against a good quarterback and a good offense in their building. Is Cincy a great team? I don't know, but that still feels like a really good win for Philadelphia, having won now 3 in a row. For Cincy, I'll just say this: just like I felt for Baker. Like, I mean, how can I be critical of Joe Burrow? Yeah, you only score 17 at home. That's tough. But your defense gave up 37 at home. And overall, Joe Burrow, if you watch the game, which I did, he wasn't the reason they lost that game. They couldn't stop the Philly to save their life. And right now, I still am not counting out the Bengals, But the Bengals definitely feel like just at this point in time, that wild card team, if they sneak in, that you wouldn't want to play in the first round, but you should still feel confident that we should beat them in the first round. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with you in the sense that, and it's speaking on Cincy particularly with this one, that he's not the reason they lost. The problem is the way the Bengals are set up right now, and I would
They can't
argue
run the
that this has
football.
been the case for the last couple years. He needs to always be the reason they win. And that's
Exactly.
a problem.
It's
And
huge.
not only that, like who on this team can be that? You're not. I can't envision us saying Zach Moss won them that game. Chase Brown won them the game. Uh, even Jamar Chase. If Jamar Chase is winning them the game,
It's
it's
because of
probably
Joe
because
Burrow.
Joe Burrow is also winning them the game.
Yeah.
Defense, obviously, that's not happening. So
Yeah.
you're left without options. You're asking the quarterback to be perfect. He's in a tough situation. Joe Burrow is. It's among the great quarterbacks. He's the guy with kind of the least help right now. And I think that's a big problem. We could
Well,
talk about Justin Herbert with the Chargers. We could talk about like Kyler Murray with the Cardinals, but Joe Burrow's better than those two.
yeah.
And he's just in a shitty situation. Not to mention the competition in division that he's contending with now. Now they're 3.5 games out. And swimming upstream the rest of the way.
Joe Burrow signed a deal with the devil, and the devil is the Brown family who owns the Bengals, who don't spend money, and they are
Right.
notoriously cheap. There's that viral video of literally the Bengals players have to cross a busy street. There's not even a crosswalk or a light to get from the practice facility to like where they practice. I mean, it's comical. It's just, they are a comically cheap organization. And Joe Burrow got paid. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins haven't been paid yet. He needs those guys. And right now they don't have anything else. The run game, you're absolutely right. Like Tyreek Hill's a type of wide receiver. You could be like, oh no, he won them the game even without the quarterback help, because you get him involved with end arounds, screens, things like that. Chase and T. Higgins need Joe Burrow to be great for them to be great. They are devoid of anyone who can take some load off of Joe, and it's a tough situation.
Yeah, but it definitely flowers given to the Eagles. As you mentioned, 3 in a row. They've got the Jags and then the Cowboys coming up next. Two very winnable games, certainly. Cowboys and Commanders back to back.
Yeah.
This is really the chance in the season here for the Eagles to fully get themselves back on track and into that discussion amongst the best in the NFC.
That Jags game is a total trap game. Looking ahead to the Eagles, so
It
it's
could
like
be,
focus in, get that win. You're better than the Jags, and then keep moving on.
Worst loss, who you got?
The team gave up a Hail Mary after stealing what should have been a victory. The Bears are the worst loss, 18-15.
Yeah.
Dan, so there's a ton of ways.
Wait, was it 18-15? My bad.
18-15.
Yeah.
They got the
I put
the
wrong
conversion.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to spend any time talking about why Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron shouldn't have been. Matt Eberflus shouldn't have kept his job, and I'm not going to spend any time talking about should they fire Matt Eberflus or not. They're not going to fire Matt Eberflus during the season. The Chicago Bears are not that kind of organization. They will not do it. They're not the Jets. They are.
Well, can I just ask real quick, was this game what kind of pushed you over the edge? Because I know that you were warming up to Eberflus in terms of how he got this defense so dominant.
No. My thoughts on him have never changed, right? Remember, all offseason before they retained him, I said fire him and start fresh.
Yes.
You want to mirror. So going into this year, as I said a couple weeks ago, his ceiling is Sean McDermott, right? Like, can you win your division consistently, but still just not be good enough? Like, that's his ceiling. And now the scary thing is with the bad challenges early in the year, the mismanagement of the time with timeouts, timeout mismanagement in this game plan mismanagement in this game at the end of the game, zero oversight of your offensive coordinator who's doing boneheaded things by handing the ball off to a backup center, even though the only reason the backup center's in there is because we thought he learned from his previous boneheaded mistakes at the goal line, and they went heavy package, and ever since then it was working, and then they gave him the ball. So clearly Matt Eberflus, like, I don't need to tell you if you're a Bears fan, he's not the guy. He shouldn't have had the job, and he's not going to get fired during the season. Matt Eberflus from here on out, and I felt this the whole way, but it's very, very true now. I think he now is mentally aware, and it's just too much talk out there for him to not know it. He now has to know I'm literally coaching for my job. Like, it is now the tally system, the good and the bad, and every good decision I make is going to help me keep this job. Every bad decision I make is going to be another tally for me getting fired. His seat should be very hot, and it is. Dan, I'll say this. The thing that really disappointed me about the loss is the fact that great teams like Andy Reid's teams, Sean McVay's teams, what do they do really well? On short rest and on long rest, they crush. So if it's short rest, Sean McVay, what do we have that stat the other week? Like he's 7-1 now in true Thursday night football games. That's insane. That just means I know more football than you. I know how to game plan a win when we don't have time to game plan. And then Andy Reid, the king of the bye, meaning when I have extra time, I'm going to make you pay for it. The Bears are coming off a bye, and offensively, we know the offensive line sucks. We can't do anything about that right now. We are getting some guys off of IR and like Borum and a couple other pieces. So there should be more flexibility when guys go down. Like, it sucks. The Braxton Jones went down, the starting left tackle, and the offensive line then from midway through the first quarter on was just an absolute shit show. That should improve slightly with some guys coming back health-wise. But obviously, we know two things. The offensive line needs to be addressed, and the coaching staff needs to be addressed. And what sucks so badly is those were the two blatantly obvious things that killed you in this game. And yet, what I say, and I stand by this, Caleb Williams in the fourth quarter is the difference between Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields. Absolutely. Justin Fields lost his job because of the blown leads. Look at Matt Eberflus's record. The blown leads last year and the previous year in the fourth quarter because Justin Fields couldn't close it out. This was the exact opposite. Caleb Williams was failed by his coaching staff, by his offensive line, and yet he shook off enough rust, was in that game enough, it took him a while to wake up. That sucks, but he's a rookie. And also, we're still in this mode because he's a rookie, and we do this with all rookie quarterbacks because we have such a small sample size. We live and die on every throw. Patrick Mahomes has been not good this year, but no one's worrying about Pat because Pat, objectively, Caleb Williams has played better football than Patrick Mahomes this year. That's like, it's almost not like even a close argument, right? Like, stats-wise, if you watch the footage, decision-making, turnovers, mobility, like, Caleb Williams has played better than Patrick Mahomes this year. Why we're not panicking about Patrick is because he's got the hardware, where Caleb, it's like we still have such a small sample size, right? So, when you suck for 3 quarters, it's harder for me to love the fourth quarter, but I still really love that fourth quarter. It is a historic loss. It's a loss that we'll remember for a long time as Bears fans. It will haunt us. And now, listen, we said it at the beginning of the year. This was the stretch where the Bears could have won 5 in a row and really separated themselves. Well, you won 2, you lost 1. You still can win the next 2, the Cardinals and the Patriots. Like, they've got to find a way to bounce back. And this team can still make a run and have a really competitive season. And in the end, I'm still pro that as a Bears fan. Even though I want Matt Eberflus fired, I'm still pro that because the best thing for a team is winning, not losing. I mean, it's just historically, when have you seen teams lose with who they think they have their guy and they get better? It doesn't happen.
True.
Caleb's impressing enough to where guys are going to want to coach Caleb Williams. The rumor mill was Ben Johnson wanted the Bears job if it became open because of Caleb Williams. That would be awesome. So if that's the type of rumors that are flying around out there, I'm not panicking about this. I'll say this about Washington. If you're a Commanders fan, I don't know how you're feeling good. I mean, you love to win. A win is a win. Don't apologize for a win. But you only scored field goals throughout the whole game. You sucked in the red zone. Jaden melted down in the red zone that whole game. And even then, the one touchdown pass he threw was the Hail Mary on the crazy breakdown, Tyreek Stevenson. I don't even need to get into all that. It's all dumb. It's all bullshit. That to me is blame the coaching staff for not having your guys organized. You blame the coaching staff for even putting your team in a position to give up a Hail Mary by giving up the play beforehand. And I blame the coaching staff for not taking a timeout and recognizing your guys aren't ready to play when you had timeouts to go. So, yeah, Tyreek Stevenson, boneheaded play. He's a good player. Like, he's a very good player in this defense. He'll get right. He won't make that same mistake again. He's going to hold himself accountable. Players will hold himself accountable, even if the coaching staff won't. But if you're Washington, like, you escaped to the victory, and it's only because Caleb Williams sort of balling out in the fourth quarter.
I kind of take the opposite viewpoint on that from Washington's perspective. They're playing the best defense in the league. Like,
true.
If I'm a Washington fan, I wasn't expecting to light up the Bears. I was expecting us to, if we were winning, to eke out, a 20-17 win or something to that effect.
It's just the red zone
Bears offense
so bad. They were just not. The red zone just was so ugly.
No, it was bad. It was bad. Don't get me wrong. And so, but the fact that you come out with a victory almost feels like, whew, okay, we got through that one somehow. And now we've seen what some our Achilles heel can be in terms of opponents. So like, it's always good, the old adage of like, better to learn through a loss or through a win than a loss. You can take these and run with it moving forward. For me, the worst loss, and again, I've spoken about the Jaguars, who aren't going to be in contention for the worst loss the rest of the way because I consider their season to pretty much be over. The same is going to go for the New York Jets.
Yep. Oh, there you go.
The New York Jets losing to the New England Patriots is incredibly embarrassing. Especially when you factor in that they're much more mobile and versatile quarterback went down right at the beginning of this game in Drake May. And you could argue Jacoby Brissett is, a grown up and like can make the plays. And so that's almost harder to deal with. Yes and no. I think given their issues in the secondary, the Jets, they would have much rather played Jacoby Brissett than Drake May, who could beat them over the top when they have such an injured secondary and a mobile guy who can evade their pass rush, which, was supposed to be super good. But that's all on the defensive side. Aaron Rodgers and company, I don't care if he didn't throw a pick in this game. I don't care that it wasn't an atrocious game from Aaron Rodgers. You scored 22 points against your rival New England Patriots, who are in contention for the worst team in the league. Now you own that, New York. Like the New York Jets are truly one of the worst bottom three teams in the NFL. Like by record, yes, but just in general by their play. I thought this was super embarrassing, and the Patriots were able to they didn't even lose it like, oh, we were just like in a rut and we just couldn't come back. No, you gave up the game-winning goal line, touchdown at the end of the game to New England, and you just got out physical. You let them play the bully ball when they're, and I guess credit to their head coach, Gerard Mayo, maybe him calling the team soft, which is certainly ill-advised, lit some sort of fire and had them, turn up the notch this week. But I don't think I have to say too much more about this game. No. The New York Jets season's over. They're 2-6. Over. They are atrocious. Best of luck to Buffalo. The AFC East is yours. They play Miami this week, I think, right? If it's not this week, they play them very soon. So they'll have an opportunity to pretty much put the early dagger into that. But God, it's I almost feel bad for Jets fans because they had this ray of hope last year. Gets hurt. You come back and you're like, all right, maybe the Jets will finally get at least the one season of hope where they'll make a playoff run, and maybe even if they don't win, they'll be fine. It's worse. It's objectively worse than what they had with Zach Wilson.
Dan, they're the most all-in team in football, and they are in dead last, in their division. It's
really bad. It's the
horrible.
Cleveland Browns,
it's horrible. Yeah. And I'll say this. You nailed it. I'll add this. I just think at this point in time, there's no quick fix. There's no easy way out of this. And so if you're the Jets, you play Thursday night on Halloween night against the Texans. Like that's your season. It is really your season. Can you muster up anything? Can you find a way to win that game? If you can find a way to win that game, then you have a pulse and you can maybe put a little faith in Aaron has done this before and gone on runs. But I mean, you're in such a deep, deep hole. Yeah. It nailed it, Tyler. It's so true.
Absolutely.
It's a bad organization. Like I hate my ownership as a Bears fan, and I hate the mom and popness of the Chicago Bears. But the mom and popness of Chicago Bears is never a circus. The circus is like, oh, we let someone else hire someone and we end up with John Fox and we just go 5-12. Like, okay. But it's never like the expectations are never, we're getting the Super Bowl this year. The Bears' expectations are always like, yeah, we're going to stink and we maybe it will be better than if we stink. Like the Jets, this is a true embarrassment. Thursday night is everything. And for the Patriots, like it's got to feel so good as a fan base. Like, this year's a rebuilding year. You don't need a quarterback. You got your guy. So it's not about getting the number 1 overall pick, right? And you still get to look at your division rival and be like, you're a fucking joke. And we just kicked your ass. You're such a joke. Like that got to be a
great moment.
It's got to feel so good.
Yeah. What a win for them and what a brutal loss for the Jets. All right, let's get to the rest of the games here. The Vikings on the road at the Rams. LA gets a really nice 10-point win with the Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua both coming back, both having fantastic games in this one. The Rams look like a completely different team when they have their top 2, wide receivers in play here. And it was just this was in contention to me for the win of the week as well, because the Rams were 2-4. Like, they lose this game, your odds of getting to the playoffs, even with how down and out the NFC West is as a whole, are still pretty low. But now you're 3-4. A win this week puts you at 500, and you're right back in this thing. So I thought it was a huge win for the Rams, and I wouldn't panic about the Vikings, but that is a game you would want to have. Like that was a game, because now you're starting to lose the momentum a little bit that you had built up.
Well, yeah, you lose 2 games in 5 days. That's not good.
That's never easy.
I will say this. If I'm the Vikings, I'm not panicking. I agree with you. I think the thing that would concern me if I'm the Vikings is that when it came down to it, it didn't feel like they had the sharpness on offense on late notice against a really good head coach. Like, as much as we love Kevin O'Connell, it felt like they got out-coached and out-schemed, and their defense, Brian Flores, which has been one of the stories of the year so far, felt like a good coach in Sean McVay was like, oh, we can attack this. We know it. I know how to attack this. And obviously getting Puka and Cooper Kupp back, it changes the game. With that, this version of the Rams is the version of the Rams I picked to win the division. And at this point in time, if they can stay even remotely this healthy for the rest of the year, I don't think there's any reason why we aren't talking about the Rams in competition for this division in 6-7 weeks from now, Dan.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, the Seahawks had played great, but they are also, starting to wane a little bit. The 49ers have had their issues well documented this year. Nobody's pulling away with this one. The Rams are firmly in place in competition for this game. We mentioned the Eagles beating the Bengals. We'll move on to the Browns getting a win. Well, actually, hold on, because we did have that game that included the Vikings and did have some news regarding Minnesota. They did get reinforcements now on the offensive line, trading with Jacksonville for left tackle Cam Robinson for a conditional 5th-round pick. So Jacksonville can the best they can get out of this is a 4th-round pick. I thought it was curious by Jacksonville to make this move, to be honest with you. I mean, the move you don't want to be making is getting rid of offensive linemen. But I do understand, they paid a fairly lucrative contract to Cam Robinson. They get a little bit of that off the books. If this is a 4th-round pick, that's not a meaningless pick. I can kind of understand they feel like their season's over. But you're also now putting Trevor Lawrence in kind of a tough spot to hopefully not get hurt the rest of the year.
To me, it's once again a signal from the Jaguars organization is we're not worried about Trevor Lawrence. Like, he's our guy. We paid him. Yeah. And now we have to find a way to quickly retool. And one of the best ways to do that is to get picks and get big money off the book. So They could justify it there.
And Vikings needed some help
who did
there.
they lose? I can't
That makes
remember the
them
guy's
better right
name.
now.
I can't remember the young player's name. He's a really good offensive lineman. They lost him 2 weeks ago to an injury out for the season, the Vikings. So they're replacing him.
I got to look that up.
I can't think of his name. He's very, very talented. And so, the Vikings in sell now mode. The rumor was they wanted to sell Christian Kirk as well, but then he got injured. And so now it's a little like, what are we doing?
Oh, Christian Darrisaw. That's the tackle. Yeah, he is really good. So that explains that move. The Browns, who officially went to Jameis Winston, which they've also announced he is going to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the season for Cleveland. The 1-win Cleveland Browns get a huge victory at home over the Baltimore Ravens in this game. Winston throws 3 touchdown passes, and they end their 5-game losing streak to get the victory. Obviously, this was kind of an emotional win, and this said a lot. Probably the worst thing that could have happened to Deshaun Watson was the fact that this team could instantly get that boost
with Joe
that they've
Flacco,
been
with
looking
Jameis
for.
Winston, whoever it is.
Yeah. They're starting to see a pattern here of competent, remotely competent quarterback play, helping the Browns get this done. I still don't feel like the Browns are, a team to be feared. I think they're better. They're better with Jameis Winston than they were with Deshaun. I'm not terribly concerned with Jameis Winston. I did feel like this was kind of like that instant juice kind of game that's going to wear off pretty quickly. I was a little concerned from what I saw from the Ravens in this game. I think their defense is a problem. They're becoming a liability in some regards, and I was expecting this defense to definitely be worse this year, not this much worse. So I think this is something that they really need to get figured out quickly, because that's going to cap their ceiling in terms of the dominance within the AFC, and they're going to play like what would this defense look like against the Buffalo Bills right now? That's gives me some pause. So I'm curious what your thoughts were on this. Like, did it say more to you about Cleveland? Did it say more to you about Baltimore, or is it you feel the same about both?
Well, you nailed it with the pop with Jameis. It's a pop. Is it a sustainable pop? We'll have to watch, right? Like, the Browns are now frisky. They're interesting. I'm not ready to say the Browns are all the way back and this is now a competitive playoff team. We'll see if the pop lasts. They already traded Amari Cooper, so they lost their best offensive weapon, for Jameis. But again, Chubb is back. The running game is back a little bit. Here's my concern with Baltimore. It's the Raiders loss, right? Like, now the Ravens should not be a 3-loss team. They feel better than a 3-loss team at this point in the season, but they are, because they lost the Chiefs and it compounded into a loss week 2 against the Raiders. You expected them to lose a divisional game or two, because the AFC North, as you know, it's the black and blue division for a reason. You're going to lose games in the AFC North, and probably games that you think you should win. And so now they're a 3-loss team. When you look at Kansas City, no losses. Buffalo, only 2 losses. They're putting themselves in a hole. And we saw their best chance to make an AFC Championship game last year was they did it because they were at home. And so that, to me, is now what I'd be concerned about. Only 11 carries for Derrick Henry. Again, it just felt like one of those games where they got out of their rhythm, and then it was a Lamar show, and nothing was right. I do love they traded for Deontay Johnson, though, from the Panthers. Great trade for them.
Big move.
That wide receiver core and weapons now with Likely, with Mark Andrews, with Zay Flowers, Deontay Johnson, that they now can almost go toe-to-toe with Detroit for just the amount of dudes they got on offense. It's crazy.
Yeah. And obviously the MVP, the reigning, 2-time MVP, being their biggest weapon. Yeah, that's that was an under the radar trade. Not a lot of people were talking about it. A lot of people were saying it doesn't move the needle very much. I think it's a pretty impactful move. Like, he's a guy that gets open, and his skill set kind of helps complement what they have. Yeah, 5th and 6th round picks they sent to the Panthers for Deontay Johnson, and they could get a 6th round back because if he leaves next year in free agency, they get a compensatory.
So he is a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah, they would have to sign him.
It's crazy.
I don't know if they're going to, but
dude, the Panthers, man, I get you're trying to get stuff back, but dude, you should have signed Deontay Johnson already. He's been
Right.
very
Yeah.
good for you. And if you're
Yeah.
drafting a new quarterback, which you're gonna, like, you need guys to throw the ball to. Like,
Yeah. I
what?
mean, Adam Thielen's going to be, seemingly 39 years old
And like
next
Xavier
year.
Legette
It's
is
like, what are you
fine,
going to?
but like you need.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
we'll
rough.
see.
It's
We'll
rough.
see.
All right, the Tennessee Titans go on the road and get absolutely destroyed by the Detroit Lions.
Detroit.
Yeah, the Mason Rudolph-led Titans didn't have the spark that they maybe
No.
sort of like started to have last week.
You go
52 to
back.
14.
Yeah. You go back to Levis when
Destruction.
he's healthy. Absolutely. Dan, what's
Yeah.
so fascinating about this? Look at the total yards in this game. It's like Detroit had the least amount of yards for the most amount of points in NFL history. I think something like that. Because every time they scored, it
Well,
was
yeah,
off of like a
Jared
punt
Goff
or
had
a
85 yards passing.
It was because they started the ball. Every touchdown drive was
Insane.
deep in the opponent's territory because it was either a return, a kick, or a punt return, a deep punt, kick, or punt return, or a fumble or an interception that they start in their opponent's territory, and they just scored. I loved this game for Detroit. It was almost my win of the week because it's a total trap game for Detroit. You come off of beating the Vikings. You're about to play the Packers this week, and the lowly Titans come to town. You could have easily seen this getting sluggish. Oh man, they scrap out a victory. No. They came out and just face skull effed them into the ground. I mean, it's impressive. Detroit, I want to put Detroit as my number one team in the NFL. I can't because the defense does worry me. Does worry me a little bit. I would love to see them go get a pass rusher. And I do think what the Chiefs are doing is quite unique and special right now. So they're the second best team in football, and they are the most explosive and dynamic and best offense in football. Period.
Yeah, there's not even a question that they are the kings of the NFC. So anyone who wants to argue that's not arguable.
It's the offensive line, dude.
Best.
It starts with the offensive line. They have the best offensive line in football, and it's not close right now.
Dante Koplowitz Fleming, I got to credit him for this stat. At least I don't know where he got it, but he tweeted it out. Jared Goff's 85 passing yards are the fewest by a player with 3+ passing touchdowns in a game since Tony Eason in the AFC Championship game in 1985 before he got destroyed by your Chicago Bears. It was against the Dolphins. He had 3 passing touchdowns on 71 yards passing, which is that's the most Tony Eason stat ever. So that's just really funny.
That's a deep cut. It's impressive what Detroit is doing. It's very impressive. And again, this was without Jameson Williams. Like, it's just this team is very, very good.
Which, speaking of Jameson Williams, back in the news again because Detroit police are investigating why he was able to avoid arrest. When they found a gun in a car that he was riding in that was his, but
investigation
but he didn't
closed. He was able to avoid arrest because he's Jameson Williams and the Lions are rolling right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's precisely.
He's a problem though. Like, he's a good, good player, but he's going down that path of like a Plaxico Burress. So it's like, dude, figure put your ducks in a fucking row.
Yeah. Cardinals were in contention for best win of the week too, in my view, because they also are right there in the mix of things in the NFC West. A 1-point victory over the Dolphins and Tua's return to the team. Obviously, the Dolphins looked way different with Tua. That is very much clear. So I think that they are gonna start to get better with Tua under center there. But the Cardinals, again, I mean, we've talked about it. They're a team where they can play with fire and their offense can look really good. It did in this game. Other times they could just look brutal. They're a very hard team to pin down, but they're 4-4 right now. And Arizona coming away. What they're tied for the NFC West right now. So I mean,
they've won 3 of 4. I'll say this, Dan, Miami feels now like that team that's going to upset some people, but barely miss the playoffs. Like they're gonna win some games. They're gonna go all in.
They dug themselves too big a hole.
Yeah, but and they're gonna win. They're gonna beat a Bills team, or they're gonna beat someone. I don't have their schedule in front of me. There, it's like, damn, and that really hurts them at some point in time, especially in Miami. But the Cardinals, listen, I'm very nervous. My Bears play the Cardinals in Arizona, and Matt Eberflus is a true 0-17 on the road in Sunday games as a head coach of the Chicago Bears. they very much should be favored in this game. They keep feeding Marvin Harrison Jr. The offense works better when Marvin Harrison Jr. is engaged in the offense, and we saw it on Sunday. It's fun to see Miami competitive again because they were just sad the last couple of weeks. They were very, very sad. So it's fun to have another competitive team back in the league and not just a sad team, because we have plenty of those. And Arizona, the only thing I have a question about them is who are they really? If this is who they really are, then this could be a playoff team and a feisty one at that. But the problem is I've seen them get blown out. I've seen them blow teams out. And then I've seen weird games like this where they hang around, and then come back and sneak a win. I don't yet know the identity of the team. I'll probably learn a lot more of that on Sunday when I watch them compete against my Bears.
Yeah, that's fair. The Packers go on the road, and Jacksonville had this game as well. They had an opportunity to win this game, but Packers are too much for them there, despite Jordan Love getting hurt in this game. Mark, he came in looking not right. Like from the jump in this game,
that knee, because he tweaked the knee.
You saw him, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they sat him. I saw early reports this week is that he's like not been in practice. I wouldn't be surprised if they like try and just get him totally right, because they're 6-2. Like, you can't afford to kind of play around with a lingering injury like that, because all it takes is one extra tweak to put him out for like the season or extended period of time.
The Bummers, they're playing Detroit this week, and it's like, do you want to wave the white flag at home against Detroit? So we'll see.
Well, and that's the thing is, people were talking about why not sit him for this Jags game, and I was thinking even then, like, well, shoot,
if he's healthy enough to play, you gotta
play because the NFC North is super competitive. Like, nobody is giving much ground right now. You got to take every win you could possibly get. But yeah, if this is a problem, I don't trust Malik Willis to be like a guy that's going to get them multiple wins.
Yeah,
moving forward. I know that he looked all right earlier this season, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the Detroit game's a huge game. He's got to get right.
It's a weird season so far for Jordan Love. And again, the sample size for Jordan Love is still so small. I don't know if he's a guy that this is a normal kind of, he gets injured. Last year, he was not injured. He was fine. He made it through the whole season clean. But this year so far, you can say his season has been marred by injuries and highs of high play and lows of lows. I mean, he's the only person who's had more comical picks than Jordan Love is Will Levis. But Jordan Love is right next to him for like horrible, horrific, comical picks.
He just has enough fantastic plays to make up for it.
It's true. And so we'll see. I know the book's still out on him. This was an impressive win by the Packers. You're on the road in Jacksonville against a desperate Jacksonville team that's thinking this is their season, right? Like, we won one. Can we get back? They had won at that point in time 2 of 3. Can we get right here and keep going in the right direction? And now look, they're trading people off and selling up people. So big impressive win by the Packers. And I would say don't play Jordan Love unless he's healthy to play. Like, it's a long season. Even if you end up in the wild card, you were in the wild card last year and you were a play away from the NFC Championship game. You can make damage with the wild card. It's not ideal, but you have a better chance to win the Super Bowl as a wild card with a healthy Jordan Love than a division winner, and you don't have Jordan Love or an injured Jordan Love.
The Houston Texans at home get a 3-point division win over the Indianapolis Colts here. This was a big one too. The Colts could have really turned the tide. The Texans get back on track, 23-20, the victory there, and the win even more meaningful now that we find the news that Stephon Diggs has torn his ACL. To make matters worse, he's on an expiring contract, set to become a free agent at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens there with Houston. But they're 6-2 right now. They're also without Nico Collins, so they're going to have to pull from Tank Dell and really Joe Mixon the rest of the way to hopefully continue on this track that they've built. But the bigger storyline almost to come out of this game was Anthony Richardson tapping out of the game in a 3rd and goal situation, I believe it was. And he said later it was because he was tired. I don't think people are making or being overly dramatic about this in the discussions out there in the media. This is bizarre. A lot of them are saying like, I don't think I've ever seen that
No,
before. And
I don't
honestly, I can't think of a time I've
know.
seen it either. I mean, that's
Dan,
really weird.
I firmly believe Anthony Richardson would be the starting quarterback for the Colts this weekend if he
If
had
that
not
didn't
done that.
happen.
I
Yeah.
think that is such an egregious thing, and the way he admitted it too. You could have just said, I felt like a quick tweak and I needed to make sure I was okay because I've been dealing with some lingering things. Go to the medical tent for a play or two, fake it and be like, no, actually I'm good. I'm good. It must have just been a stinger. I'm ready to go back in or whatever it is. But the fact that he admitted, no, listen, I was tired. It's so disconnected. It's such not what a leader does as the quarterback. What you do if
Yeah.
you're tired, you audible to a run play the next play, right? And or you say to your coach, like, you look at him and you give him the sign, like, you know what I mean? Like, but you don't leave your guys because you're tired. You don't think your
Yeah.
offensive linemen are tired. You don't think the wide receivers running routes are tired. I said it
Absolutely.
week one after Anthony Richardson. Like, I thought he had the chance to really blossom this year, and you get wowed by the big plays. I'm shocked they already announced that this is a permanent change, that Joe Flacco is their starter going forward, because I really think that truly means Shane Steichen has had a meeting with Irsay, and that in that meeting they have said he's not our guy. He's
Or
not our guy.
Ballard. Yeah. Like, yeah.
And if that's the case, then I get it. You move off it, but then I would try to trade Anthony Richardson like now, like try to trade him, because his stock isn't. I don't think his stock could get any lower unless he gets injured. But you're not like, make the move, like, right, like get him out of the building, like, and move on. There are some teams right now I think who would give you a second round pick for Anthony Richardson. Think about the teams like New York Giants. You think Daboll wouldn't look and be like, look what I did with Josh Allen? I'm the guy who fixed Josh Allen. I
True.
can fix it.
That's a good point. Yeah. The Raiders.
And you look at this year's quarterback draft is not strong. I mean, it's Shedeur Sanders and a bunch of like, do we believe in it? And I don't even believe in Shedeur. We'll get into that another time. But
yeah.
I'll say this for the Texans for the win. Dan, the Texans are weird. Obviously, they need Nico Collins back. The Stephon Diggs move sucks, but this team is always more about like that was an added bonus. Nico Collins is their go-to. He's their number one. He makes their offense work. I'm not yet making a declaration on the Texans. They're obviously winning their division. They're very good. There's no sophomore slump, quote unquote. But I still I still have no idea. Like, they haven't played a complete game where I'm like, that's the Texans. That looks like the team last year. So still plenty of time to do that. And their division is kind of such a joke that they'll be fine. But it's something I need to see. And maybe it's this Thursday. Maybe they go in there and they just demolish the Jets and dismantle them. And we go, oh, all right, there it is.
Are they underdogs against the Jets? I just saw a headline that says JJ Watt cannot believe the Texans are underdogs versus the Jets. That's insane. How is that even?
No Diggs, no Nico Collins in New York on a short week. Home teams have an advantage on short.
I mean, that's
Thursday
true.
Night.
Yeah, I just think they're so much better of a team than
that's
Jets,
Vegas wanting you. That's Vegas baiting us to take the Texans.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see that plus sign next to the Texans? That's Vegas is baiting us, and I'm gonna take the bait.
How do you feel about Ladd McConkey and the aerial attack now in LA as the Chargers get a 26-8 win over the New Orleans Saints, who, by the way, the Saints who started 2-0 have lost 6 in a row.
The Saints are, yeah. No, I think I feel good that they pummeled a team that you're supposed to pummel, right? The Saints are now in the same category as the Panthers. When you see them, you lick your chops and you say, let's go, boys. We're making Pro Bowls in this game, right? Like we're putting up Pro Bowl numbers. So listen, you lost to the Cardinals last week. We now feel like the Cardinals are something. So that helps, right? Like it takes the sting out of that loss a little bit more. This win makes me feel, again, that little extra boost of confidence in the Chargers. Dan, the wild card in the AFC is freaking wide open.
It is. It's
So
kind
the
of
Chargers are trying to keep
interesting.
pace with the Broncos, who we'll talk about here in a second. I right now feel better about the Chargers than I do the Broncos, and I'll make that case when we get to the Broncos.
Fair enough. We'll get to the Broncos in 2 games. The next one on the list here is the Bills 31-10 win over Seattle. I didn't have too many takeaways of this. Like, I thought the Bills were the very much superior team to Seattle here, and Seattle, for all of their they're another one of those weird teams where it's like they were good early on, they stumbled a little bit, they're
Then
kind of
they
the
were
middling,
good.
and that's they haven't cracked my top 10 in the rankings there for the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network rankings that we put out every week, because they just haven't put it all together and done it consistently enough. They're 4-4. They're in contention still for that, division crown. I just don't feel great about this team overall, whereas the Bills are consistently performing offensively, at least.
It's funny because the Seattle Seahawks have a great wide receiver core, but as soon as DK Metcalf missed this game, they
Yeah,
didn't
it's
feel like
very
the
different.
same team.
Yeah.
Smith and Jigba and Lockett are really good wide receivers, but they're the type of wide receivers that really benefit from that 6'5" dude who can run by you.
They're very similar. They're very similar receivers.
Yes, and
Yeah,
so
that's the
DK,
problem.
they didn't have that element. And let's be honest, Geno throws a great deep ball to DK. So like that whole element was
Yeah.
gone. And I think the Bills capitalized on that. And also, Dan, Josh Allen threw his first interception. I think that's a good thing. Like, get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And listen, this team is peaking. Look at what this wide receiver core did. And it wasn't Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper being there again opened everything up for Shakir. It feels like it did for the Bills first year they got Stephon Diggs. And I don't have to worry about Amari Cooper turning into a diva like Stephon Diggs. Like, I am so high on the Bills right now. I think they are peaking right now.
Yeah.
Let's just see if this is a peaking at the wrong time, or if this is now they're peaking to an echelon where it's like, oh, now, no. They're now just one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NFL. Allen playing great. The run game is fantastic. The wide receiver core now just feels so
Complete.
organized and electric and complete. Great word. And they took on a team that is explosive, but was missing their most explosive piece. And they capitalized on that.
Yeah, and the Seahawks defense in terms of personnel is not great. I know
No.
McDonald, is good on that side of the ball, and can,
But
help
he
with
needs
that.
time.
But yeah,
He needs time to get his guys in there.
yeah. Bo Nix, 3 touchdown passes, leads the Broncos to a 28-14 win over the Panthers. I know a lot of people are talking about Bo Nix. I'm still very much in the I am not making a proclamation about this guy, especially he hasn't performed super well against very good teams this year. I mean, it's just
Dan,
like I'm still waiting for like him to have a great performance against a good team. I
again,
guess is what I want to say.
good win. You beat the team
It
you're
was a good
supposed to
win, yeah.
beat. You beat the
Yeah.
team you're supposed to beat. You said
Absolutely.
the Panthers on your schedule, 3 touchdowns, put up those numbies. It's a great, great thing to play the Panthers. The Bears did it. Everyone does it, right? It's so good. I'll say this. Again, we've said it over and over and over and over again. His ceiling is Dak Prescott, which is fine. Like, that's a good quarterback in the NFL. In that division, it just feels weird and it feels false. Dan, they have 5 wins. Their wins, Jets, Raiders, Saints, Panthers,
Yeah.
and then the win in Tampa against the Bucks. But remember, Sean Payton has that weird 30-0 edge over Todd Bowles. He is never lost to Todd Bowles. So there's something there. So they've beaten teams. 4 of their wins are against the 4 worst teams in the NFL. Their next 3 games, Dan, we're going to learn all about the Broncos.
They're going to be
Chiefs,
5 and 6.
Falcons. So
they're going to be 5 and 6.
So let's learn about it. And if they're not, if they find a way to win 2 of those 3, then we can talk about the Broncos. So let's wait.
Yeah, because they play the
then.
Raiders, the Colts, the Browns. There's some opportunity at the back half of the year.
Yeah, but it's these 3 games against 3 really competitive teams coming up in a row. Let's see what their record is after that, and then I'll let you know how seriously I take the Broncos.
By the way, the Panthers are sticking with Bryce Young this week, despite
Good.
a healthy Andy Dalton. So,
Good.
I mean, and this is what we talked about. But again, it's this weird flip-flop that they're doing. But yes, we both agree got to get more and more tape on Bryce Young. Just get as much exposure as possible.
I would also,
They're not going
again,
anywhere this year.
if there's a 5th round pick available, I would take it. Like I would take it. It's the same feeling I have with Anthony Richardson right now. If you know you're moving on, then move on, because I'm telling you,
it's always better to jump ship.
This offseason quarterback market is going to be really interesting, and there's going to be some veterans who are available, and you don't want to be stuck just having to cut a guy basically like the Bears did. Like, you remember that was what you got awkward with the Bears with Justin Fields, right? It got a little awkward. And then it was like the compensatory, and it looks like now the Bears, unless Russell gets injured, are going to end up with a 6th rounder. So if there's something available, take it and go.
The Chiefs, the Raiders almost played spoiler, but the Chiefs beat the Raiders 27-20. Mahomes has a couple touchdown passes. I think Travis Kelce caught his first touchdown pass of the season. So they're getting a little bit back on track. Probably felt good for that offense to get some aerial production that they have not had this year. They're 7-0. They're still the best team in the league.
Dan, I'll say this about the Chiefs. What is so much more fascinating to me about this team than in years past is the fact that it just feels like they go into every game and they just say, we'll wait and see what this game looks like, and then we'll just adjust. Like, they're not imposing their will on anyone. They're literally saying, we have a defense that we trust against any other defense or team in the league. It is a top 3 defense in the NFL. And Spags, they're just like, okay, so we know they're going to perform well. And then it's just like, offensively, they look around and they go, let's just wait and let's just see what happens. And then we'll just adjust. And then Patrick will make a couple dink and dunk throws and good 3rd down runs, and we'll win this game. DeAndre Hopkins made his debut. I love they got DeAndre Hopkins. In 3 weeks from now, this offense will have Hopkins integrated. You'll have
Pacheco.
Juju Smith-Schuster back. You might have Pacheco back, and now have a really dynamic 2-headed running back room with him and Hunt. And you'll have Hollywood Brown. And it's like, at that point in time, I'll start to question if the Chiefs aren't scoring 30 regularly. Then I'll be like, what's maybe a little bit wrong? As of right now, I'm not. They're starting a rookie offensive tackle. They have some holes. The problem is they have the best coach and quarterback and a top 3 defense. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah,
to
just can't
take advantage of those holes because they have the best coach and quarterback and a top 3 defense.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to overcome. A 3-4 start to the season is going to be hard to overcome for the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East. Not impossible though, especially with that division. But 49ers get a 30-24 victory. Sunday Night Football really was about a dominant 3rd quarter from Brock Purdy and company that
they bullied him.
Put this game away. It was 10-6 at the half, and then it was pretty quickly 27-10 after the 3rd quarter. So. Gave up a couple touchdowns there in the 4th to Dallas, but
that's what they do.
Garbage time. This is what Dallas does. Yeah, 38 passing attempts for Dak Prescott, a couple picks that weren't good in this game. Brock Purdy was, just his typical kind of efficient self. George Kittle on National Tight Ends Day had a big day. By the way, they had like 14 tight end touchdowns. So something about that special day that gets going
next year. I got to mark it next year and bet the tight ends.
Absolutely.
Damn. CeeDee Lamb had 17 targets. The Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys are the most
predictable.
They're the most stuck team in the league, right? Like, even the Jets can say in 2 years from now, we might actually be in a really great spot, because if Aaron Rodgers retires and you just get to start over, like, that's better than where the Dallas Cowboys will be in 2 years. Even the Chiefs, or like good teams, like a Bills, or like a mortgage the future team, right? Like a Ravens, they're going to be in a better spot than the Cowboys because of that Dak contract and that CD contract. They are so effed. They're so stuck. And coming again.
All right.
So I don't expect anything from Dallas for the rest of the year. They're exactly what I predicted them to be. They're going to be about an 8-9 win team. I think they're barely going to miss the playoffs in the NFC. Even if they make the playoffs, they're non-competitive.
Yeah, they're not going to make waves.
They can't run the ball. Their offensive line is not great. Their defense is sus. And they target CeeDee Lamb 17 times just so it seems like CeeDee doesn't get mad at Dak. It's a broken system. And for the 49ers, I love to see this felt like a vintage Kyle Shanahan game. A running back we've never heard of, just like feed him, and he's electric. And we're just going to look at our opponent in the eyes and say, F you, we're bigger, stronger, and we're going to bully you. And that's what they did in the third quarter. That's a vintage 49ers game. It feels like they have less of those in the chamber of their gun. And it feels like they used one 2 years ago. I'd have said, oh, well, they'll just keep shooting. They have unlimited of those games. This year, it feels like they maybe only have 2 or 3 of those left, and it's every couple weeks. So we'll TBD with the Niners, but a needed win for the Niners.
Definitely a needed win, and they put up 30 points at home. Like, yeah, it was a needed win. And 4-4, they're tied for the division. Like, they can go on a run here and potentially, take a stranglehold if all the things line up.
Purdy is young Kirk Cousins. He's the way he scrambles, his accuracy.
Yeah, I could see that.
The lack of arm, but then the arm when
like an Alex Smith type, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, Alex was way more athletic,
more mobile. Yeah,
sure. More mobile. But like Purdy's arm at times is like, good God, that's not an NFL arm. And then the next throw, it's like, shit, where did that come from? It's very weird. Yeah. It's
interesting.
Unlike a Patrick Mahomes who has like all the angles, Purdy's got no angles. But when
Purdy.
He's angleless Purdy, but yet there are times he makes those that are just like, shit, I want this freaking guy, man. How does he do it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes he just makes really good decisions,
Dan,
and it gets you.
I was hoping this would be your win of the week, so we could talk about it right away. Here, open it on up. Listen, the Steelers, are they for real? What a win.
I mean, I do think they're for real. Like, I feel confident in the Steelers being a quality team. I picked them to win 9 games this year, and I picked them to miss the playoffs. I don't think either of those is going to happen at this point. I think it's pretty clear. Like, even if we say that they have, a rough patch over this final 9 games, which we've, talked extensively about how difficult their schedule is, I think conservatively having them go 5-4 in the back stretch is fairly plausible. Because we talk about the division games, they could easily split those. That's 3-3. And if they steal a second one, sweep the Browns or something, or sweep the Bengals, go 4-2, then they really just have to get a win against the Commanders, Chiefs, or Eagles, one of those 3 games, and they are an 11-win team. And I just think that's much more plausible. I think it's very realistic now to say that they could easily win this division. Maybe not easily, but you could absolutely see them winning this division. No, I think they're for real. I mean, I'm not going to read too much into a game where they beat the Giants, who I don't think are a very good football team, by 8 points. But I will say it was a little bit misleading. Like, I think if anybody was trying to be like truly objective, despite it being 9-9 at the half, you had to feel like the Steelers were dominating that game. Yeah. I mean, offensively, they were constantly getting into the red zone, stalling out by penalties. The George Pickens getting 2 right feet down, but not both feet.
I had George Pickens anytime touchdown, and so he had 2 of them taken away.
He had 2 touchdowns that were taken away. Yeah,
it killed me.
One by a boneheaded, absolute. I mean, their first round pick from 2 years ago, Broderick Jones,
who holding,
I thought was going to be a stud. Now it makes even more sense why they went and got a tackle, in Troy Fautanu this year in the first round. Yeah, you were hoping that they were going to be your bookend tackles. I mean, Broderick Jones has been pretty bad. He's been like a liability this year for them. But no, I just think that what Russell gives them in the passing game has been a lot different. That throw he made to Pickens down the sideline was incredible. That was a great throw. Just a great throw.
It was.
I feel good about this team, and special teams is a low-key real big part about what they've been, doing this year. They are
Austin.
blocking a lot of kicks.
He's fun.
They got a punt return touchdown. They're seeming like a really solid, complete football team, and yeah, I feel optimistic.
I laughed so hard on part of my take. I think it was on Steelers played Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
So it was today's episode, the Wednesday episode. Barstool Big Cat, they talk about Monday Night Football on Wednesday's episode. I think he said like jokingly, but in a way, it's very true. The best free agent move so far of this year has been the Steelers getting George Pickens by putting in Russell Wilson. Like, it's crazy how much more he's been engaged and involved. And listen, we both said it. Justin
taking more shots.
Justin had
their play action.
Everyone, the national media was throwing Tomlin under the bus. Mike Tomlin's never won Coach of the Year.
Yeah, which
that
is
could
crazy.
change this year.
That is crazy.
That should and could change this year. Now, 3 of the next 4 on the road: Washington, Cleveland, Ravens, Bengals. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Again, we'll see. And
they got a bye week this week. It comes at a very good time for them.
With Russ, I'll say this: it still feels like I'm clenching my breath, like, oh, like what's gonna happen? Because there's still some of those moments where he throws like in the dirt. And Tyler, I was just about to say this.
It's very true.
TJ Watt is officially now like the closer. Like, and that's what's exciting if you're a Steelers fan. If you have a passing offense that scores and you can get ahead, well, now TJ Watt's value goes way up too. That he just can pin his ears back and go attack the passer.
Their right tackle all week said, I hope I get him on an island all game.
Oh, yeah, that was so.
And he's walking it back. He said, oh, well, I wrecked him for 3 quarters. The guy had help the entire time. I mean, TJ Watt, the only way to defend against him is you put a second guy there to chip. Like, you have to.
TJ Watt, I think, is actually better than JJ Watt. The problem is going to be the hardware. And also, and
availability. I mean, he's
and also JJ just so big, like physically imposing, where you're like, that dude's got to be better than that dude. Like, and JJ had the touchdowns, so I think there's something with that too, like the tight end, like playing touchdowns.
If he continues on this trajectory, Mark, I'm not even kidding. I think TJ Watt will go down as the top 10 greatest defensive player of all time. Like, I truly believe.
Yeah, he's got to get enough. Unfortunately, he's been screwed out of at least one defensive player of the year, because those things matter when you're talking about that. So he needs to get another.
But if he wins it this year, he's got 2 to his resume.
Yeah,
can he snag a third healthy and be in rare company?
And then he's got to stay healthy and put up numbies, because he's going to put up more numbers than his brother, because his brother didn't stay healthy long.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be the big thing.
I still think in a 3-year period, peak JJ was like a top 2 defensive player of all time. Like, I mean, peak JJ in that 3 years.
Oh,
span,
yeah.
22, 21, 20 sacks or whatever he had. I mean, just mind-boggling. Dan,
but no, the Steelers are like a legit.
Well, we got to wait.
Say, like, do you feel they're super legit right now?
Right now, to me, I have them below the Bills, Ravens, Chiefs. But who's to say they're not better than everyone else in the AFC? And on any given Sunday with that defense, they could make a run at those teams.
And Najee Harris is playing better than he has.
And that's
his
important.
Career.
It's really important. Really, really important. To me, again, let's check in with the Steelers in 4 weeks. They're going to the road 3 of the next 4 weeks. I think they have a bye in there as well. So
this week, this week is their bye. So then they go
off
on that
the bye.
9-week
It's
gauntlet.
It's a gauntlet. So let's see.
Yeah.
And so
but if they go 2-2, if they're 8-4,
they just got to get to 10 wins. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah,
in the AFC, 10 wins is 10 wins is like 5 seed. Like, and they're already in 6 wins. I think they're going to get to 10 wins. You said conservatively 5-4. I'd say it doesn't even matter if they go 4-5 over the stretch of 9.
Right. Yeah.
They're in the playoffs, and then once you're in, whatever happens.
I was thinking more for the division. Like, if they go 5-4, they'll have a legit shot at winning.
Well, they will North. Because the Ravens already have 3 losses. Like, the Ravens screwed themselves. Like, they killed themselves with that Raiders loss. I'll say this is a hole on week 8. It's just kind of a button on it. It's the last week. We'll have buys now pretty much all the way now to the last 2 weeks. I think it is, right? Or whatever, 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, it's the last 3. I think week 14 is the last week of buys.
Yeah. So it was a crazy week. I think, to me, one of the biggest takeaways from this week, when we look back at it as a whole, it's the death of the Jet season, like the official nail in the coffin, the death of the Jet season. But it is literally the resurgence, like the comeback alive for the Rams, like East Coast, West Coast.
Mhm.
I really think keep an eye on the Rams. And then for the Jets, Thursday night, again, tomorrow night, if they can win impressively, and I mean like impressively, then maybe we'll show them some love on next week's show. But otherwise, it's also the last week before World War III breaks out because of the election on Tuesday. So cherish that.
Absolutely. Yep. It's a big week. It's a big week ache for many reasons.
Do you care?
I think we're gonna.
Should the podcast say who we endorse, or does Jeff Bezos, or would the For Frequency's Sake owners? We were ready to endorse. We were ready to endorse a candidate. For Frequency's Sake said no.
Well, look, I have made clear I am open for business. Whoever wants to give me money, I will endorse it. I will sell.
Come on the pod.
Or quite honestly, for like a $35 Jimmy John's gift card. Honestly.
Can you imagine if like JD Vance is like, yeah, I'm going on the football lounge.
We're doing Rogan, Tim Dillon, and then the football lounge after that. So doing the trifecta.
We were ready to endorse a candidate, and the For Frequency's Sake said, no, guys, we're not doing it.
Down the hammer.
We're not doing it. Those billionaires, the billionaires at For Frequency's Sake said it's not good for business.
Well, that's yeah. It was just the George Soros for George Soros' sake.
I've always said DJ and Soros did look alike.
It's good stuff. All right. Well, that was a packed week 7. So we'll see what week 8 holds. I think we're going to do a Wednesday episode next week as well because of the election. I know you're going to be working late.
I'm working late.
It's a big night, obviously. So we'll get back on the airwaves next Wednesday to recap week 8. And yeah, we'll be back at you. But yeah, check us out at FB Lounge Pod, anywhere you get your socials, and forfantasysaqc.com for all of the shows here on the For Frequency's Sake podcast network. But that will do it for us here from week 7. We'll see you next time.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake podcast network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.